Detective Comics, also known as DC, the big competitor to Marvel. Not really. No one cares about DC. DC's new comic book has Superman coming out as bisexual next month. Because that's what we need. We need bisexual Superman. The image there, of course, shows John Kent. I'll explain that in a second. Kissing his boyfriend, Jay Nakamura, a new character that was introduced earlier this year. I guess in the comic stories, the son of the original Superman, Kal-El / Clark Kent, took over for his father. I don't know why. It doesn't seem like Superman would have to retire. How old is he? Superman kind of started in like the 30s. So, I mean, he's in his 80s, but he's Superman. So, okay. The genius that came up with this idea said, I knew replacing Clark with another straight white savior could be a real opportunity missed. That's Tom Taylor. But I've always said everyone needs heroes and everyone deserves to see themselves in their heroes. Today, Superman, the strongest superhero on the planet, is coming out. Here's my take. Why don't you just come up with a bi superhero? Why does it have to be Superman? Why can't you come up with fucking bi guy or whatever? I mean, you know what I mean? I've been thinking about this. I've been watching a lot of Twilight Zone lately because Hulu has like their Halloween thing going on. So they have Twilight Zone episodes that I assume aren't part of what's on Paramount Plus or wherever that stuff, that network, what is it, CBS, their stuff is. I've been watching the Twilight Zone a lot. And that's one of those shows from back in the 60s that did a lot of social commentary, kind of like Star Trek. Star Trek did the same thing. And here's what I'm wondering. Of course, now it doesn't give the impression that they're beating you over the head with it. The social commentary in the Twilight Zone has a lot to do with like, we're going to nuke ourselves. It's a lot of what I would say that era is kind of environmentalism. We're going to destroy ourselves with nukes, which was a valid concern back then, obviously. And, so they'd work in stuff that had to do with that. One of the things I watched was, nuclear wars on the horizon and these two families. The dads of each family are working on different parts of like some experimental projects. And one of the things that I guess the one dad is like a test pilot, and he's been testing this aircraft that could even leave the atmosphere and fly into space. So they make this plan because they know nuclear annihilation is just around the corner. And of course, there's like this government spy guy who is on to them. And anyways, they finally make their way to the airfield. They get caught by the spy guy, but they overpower him and get into the airfield, and they get to this. Of course, it's a flying saucer, and they fly off, and they're in space, and they're looking at the instruments and some kind of weird map, and the one guy says to the other, we've listened to the communications from this planet, and there's people there, and their language isn't unlike ours. And the other dude goes, these stars seem so far away. And he's like, well, the one we're going to isn't that far away. It's the one over to the right there. And he goes, oh, which planet is it? And he goes, it's the third. And of course, then it was they were coming to Earth. They were actually from somewhere else, which was, it was like, wow, good story, nice little twist. But I'm curious, back then, to the audience of the time, did they feel like they were being beaten over the head with the social commentary from shows like The Twilight Zone or Star Trek? I don't think they did. Whereas I think the subtlety of getting that stuff in there has gone out the window with modern writers. I think they just, we're going to bash it over your head. I mean, the new Star Trek Discovery, it's a pretty good show. I haven't watched like the last 2 seasons, but I watched like the first 3 before when Amazon offered it. And it was pretty good, but it did its share of, oh, these guys are gay, and the fucking engineer was a lady who was married to another lady, and they could work that stuff in with more subtlety and just have it be the thing that's going on. They seem to make way too much of a big deal out of it. One movie that I thought did a great job without beating you over the head was the Freddie Mercury movie. It was just, yeah, that's the thing that's going on, but they didn't, like graphically have him, fucking other dudes or anything. I don't know. Feel free to voice your opinions on the subject in the chat. As are they using a hammer and chisel for the social commentary as opposed to a subtle, paintbrush just kind of painted in? I think they are. I think it's everything's become very agenda driven. And they're not original. They're doing this with Superman. They've got a Black Wonder Years. I don't know, what's another thing lately? Oh, the Lady Ghostbusters from a couple years ago. It's like, make your own thing. Make something new. For whatever reason in America, we're not making anything new when it comes to anything. Our manufacturing is shit. Our art is becoming shit because we don't make anything new. We just rehash. The new thing now is, what's this thing that was successful? All right, how about they're all women? Boom. What's this other thing that's successful? Oh, how about it's black people now? Boom. And the Wonder Years, here's what I don't understand. It's set in the exact same time frame that the original Wonder Years was. Now, the magic thing of the Wonder Years was it ran in 80s, 90s, right? If I'm not mistaken. But it was about the 60s. And it highlighted the shit that like all kids go through, right? But because it was set in the 60s, it was the kind of show where a parent could sit down and get a chuckle out of, oh yeah, I remember how stuff was back then. And the kids could sit down and like, oh yeah, being a kid is the fucking same, whether it's the 60s or the 80s. So for the Wonder Years that they're doing now to be set in the 60s, number one, it wasn't that wonderful for black people. And I'm sure that's what they're going to get into. Look how racist we are. Because that's what they want to say. We're still like that. No, we're not. We're not fucking like that anymore. From what I understand, like they bash you over the head with that the first episode. I guess the mom gets put on the PTA because they want fucking diversity. And then she finds that out that she's not on the PTA because she's an awesome mom. They put her on the PTA because they want a black. What they should have done is set the Wonder Years in the 90s. Then they would have had the dynamic of having it appeal to kids because kids go through the same shit no matter what era it is. And hey, make them black then. That's fine. And it would have appealed to the parents. None of the parents now, who is the target audience for this for the 60s, the reminiscing thing? The grandparents? Do they want like 3 generations to sit down and watch this? I don't know. We need some originality. And who's great with originality, especially when it comes to TV and movies? the fucking Koreans. They are kicking our ass with originality. If you haven't seen Squid Game, and I don't have Netflix, so I haven't seen it, but what I've seen of it, I really want to find a way to bootleg it or something. Maybe someone out there who has a Netflix subscription but doesn't have Disney Plus, maybe we could trade some usernames and passwords or something, you know, something like that. I'd be down for that just so I can see Squid Game. Let me know. Yeah, just the no originality, and just let's just make a woke version of something that was successful, you know, 50 years ago, is just getting on my fucking nerves lately. Well, that's enough of a rant for that. Let's get into our next story. Oh, speaking of governors, here's one that's doing something good. Out in Texas,